So I would like to share a little story with you, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and how this archetypal tale has some pondering contemplative moments in my own epic journey of evolution. And of course, I created soul collage cards along the way. Let's see if I can do this. This was a card I made so many years ago, and it does have this evil queen mother on it. And this was really the only card in my deck that really referenced the villain in this storyline. And so as I explored the fairy tale in more depth, I recently created this card that really showcases the queen's view into herself. And in the fairy tale, it's very narcissistic and filled with a lot of shadow forces. And I loved bringing in the larger cathedral and having a little bit of a softer feminine edge that reminds me that no matter how deep I might get in some of those energetics as I look at and evaluate myself, that this energy is always available. And then, of course, in the fairy tale, the evil queen exiles the daughter out. And so here is one of my personal cards about me being exiled out. And the rage and envy and jealousy and all of that reflection of shadow that shows up in this character in the fairy tale. And it is kind of an interesting thought to explore the 7 deadly sins in this fairy tale. And so I was looking at the 7 deadly sins and reflecting on how some of those energetics might show up in my personal life. And I have this card in my deck that speaks to gluttony. Gluttony is that, booty boots, there's a lot of energy and charge in this card. And then there's also a sloth component as well that is in my deck. And so these were 2 of the energetics that showed up as I explored those 7 deadly sins, and taking a bite of the apple and being able to see and expose myself so that I can do alchemy with that. And kind of in that category of 7, back to Snow White. Snow White is out in the wild woods after the hunter let her go, and she found the dwarfs and the 7 dwarves, and she moved in with them, and they took care of each other. She tended to their house and made their meals. And kind of the model that I explored with the 7 dwarves was defining the 7 core relationships in my first adulthood. And so I made this card, which was a really powerful process to go through. And so these are the 7 core relationships of my first adulthood. And as I was making this card, I realized there were a couple relationships that had some charge and unresolved energy. So I took that relationship and I put it into the package of a dwarf, and I made that character and was able to make some dwarf cards for those relationships to help me resolve and better honor the medicine of the dwarfs. So, Snow White, of course, there's so much more to the story, you know, the infamous apple, and going into this endless sleep, and that I equate to my Death Lodge process, my 7-year Death Lodge process, and really going into that component. And I am waking up from that sleep, and so now I am able to re-enter the woods from a more integrated place. And so I love this card. I just made it like 10 minutes ago. It's so awesome. So that's a little bit about me and my journey through the fairy tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and some of the aspects of the fairy tale I explored in my life, and also some of the soul collage cards that I made to go along with it. So hopefully this will inspire you to look at your archetypal amazingness in your life journey. And if you make art or collage, maybe you'll find some images to inspire that expression in the world. So thank you for listening. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ciao.